Okay, we are here for another exciting episode of the Sexy Side of Menopause. And ladies, I'm Beverly with Beverly Hills Health and Wellness Coaching. And my objective with the podcast is to bring in voices that are missing from the menopause conversation, thus the sexy side of menopause. And do I have a treat for you? This young lady, I met her at the beginning of the year. So it's been practically a year now. We kind of see each other in circles. And we had a conversation and she said something that was so profound. I was just like, oh my God, you just have to be on the podcast. You said, yeah, we will do that. So let me present to you Adaeze Iloeje, and I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but she has a name that is probably the 26 letters of the alphabet. So I told her I didn't want to say it incorrectly, but I want her to formally introduce herself to you, and we will kick off the conversation from there. So welcome. So great to have you here.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. When I told my husband I was going to be on this podcast, he was like, what? I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I said, but it's okay. So my name is Adaeze Iloeje-Udeogalanya. So Adaeze Iloeje-Udeogalanya. I'm the founder and CEO of African Women in STEM. And like Beverly said, we've known each other for, almost a year now. And it's just been an interesting thing. I don't believe in coincidences, but the fact that we're here today, I think we're meant to be here today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm looking at you and you are radiant. And I must ask you, what is your secret to your skin so glowing, your personality? I know you said you're in STEM and you have to talk about what STEM is, but the conversation that we had that really got me was your upbringing and how you were taught to eat foods in a certain way. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I've been trying to teach this to my ladies on the podcast. So we're going to have a conversation about your culture and how you grew up in, so we can have this radiant skin. I live in the esthetician's office. She's always doing some kind of elixirs and potions. I don't do what do you call them, facelifts or anything. I do natural, but your secret, I want to know.
The funny thing, I used Vaseline for the longest time. Like even till today, I say it's not healthy, but I'm very low maintenance skincare and hair care. But one thing that I think I've done really well up to date is just the food that I eat, what I put into my body. And it's not for anything, but just my mom is a professor of home science, and her is a textile, but she knows everything about food and healthy foods. It was so weird that I would say my mom would put vegetable in anything. Anything, but one thing she taught us was every meal has to be a balanced diet. That was just basically her thing. Every meal has to be a balanced diet. You have to have your carbs, your protein, your vitamins, your vegetables, and all of that. If it's not complete, it's not a meal. Go find it and put it there. And she was also very particular about portions. Not in a big way, but kids, I used to be a very picky kid. I didn't eat a lot for a very long time. But, as long as the food was healthy, she was probably fine with what we ate. But there's always things you have to make room for, like dessert, which is not mostly fruit for the most part. And she not like a typical Nigerian mom, because in my household, we don't eat typical things. Because when she went to school, like during their food lab, they'll give them like plantain and be like, make 10 different dishes from plantain. And the good thing was I had people from different tribes across the country and people from different countries in the class. So literally we can get plantain, and she's always like very particular about what it's good about the food. So she'd be like, unripe plantain has a lot of irons. So even when I was a kid, I was like, okay, so I'm eating irons today, And she can make so many different things from that. She can get any food at all, especially food that people don't normally eat, and she can make like 10 or 15 different varieties of food from it. So that is kind of where my love for like food and food variety and making sure that my food is healthy. And always at the back of my mind is like your food has to be a balanced diet. And at the back of my mind, there's always this thing of too much of everything is bad. So with those two things are kind of the things that kept me. And one more thing I want to mention, I remember I was a kid, but she said this. She's like, when people get pregnant, they start eating right. But the health of your baby is actually what determines it is what you ate, like even when you were a kid. So she was always particular about start now to eat for the child you're going to have 10 years from now, because that's when it matters the most. So it was just this whole thing of just having a healthy eating habit and just making it part of your life. So you never have to worry about, okay, now this is a time in my life that I have to eat well and eat better.
Wow. You know, everything you're saying, I'm having goosebumps listening to you because I grew up, I'm a baby boomer, so my grandmothers, great grandmothers had a major impact on our lives. And we didn't have access to a lot of the processed things, the fast foods. It's like we lived in a rural area, everybody had a farm, and they had potions and elixirs for everything. You didn't go to a doctor unless you severed something. If you had cold, mumps, measles, whatever, they had a potion for you. But the baseline always started with food. So that's natural for me. So what I want to ask you is like about your culture. You said that your mom is into food science. She's had like a doctorate in food science. So tell me, like, what is your culture like? Where are you from? Your family's from? And that foundation staying with you is amazing because here in the United States, it's like, I don't think you can find decent food. You really have to search to find it, and still you wonder, is like, if it says organic, is it truly organic? So let's talk about your background, because I think that that's paramount on the adult that you are today and the conversation that you have. Because when you said what you had mentioned in the conversation about food, I was just like, yes, like women, it's so simple, but they don't really think about, like you're saying, the baby part. You have to take care of your body with healthy foods before you have the baby. So let's talk about like your roots and how you were taught that growing up.
Yeah, so I'm Nigerian. I'm Igbo from the eastern part. But I'm going to put a caveat because I remember now that we have social media, I see some things on social media that, people start telling us about how many carbs you have in certain foods we eat in Nigeria. And I'm like, I don't know why you're talking about Nigerian food is healthy. But it took me a long time to realize that maybe not. Maybe it's just the way my mom cooked it. Because I remember when I was 10, I went to visit a friend, a family friend, we're on holiday, and then she made stew. Stew for us is like a tomato-based sauce.
Okay.
And she had like a lot of oil sitting on top. People do that because, there's no refrigeration. So if you have the oil sitting on top, it preserves the food.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how some people cook. But I ate it and I was sick. I was sick for days because I never ate that much oil in my life. So the way and the way my mom cooked was influenced by, again, I don't know how her mom figured it out, the school, and then also her father was diabetic from a very young age.
Okay.
So we don't eat a lot of sugar in Nigeria, but some people can eat a lot of salt.
Okay.
But instead of cooking 2 meals for the family, they just made the one meal and no salt or very low salt. So I always had this in my mind: if you can taste the salt, it's too much. And you don't need salt to make food delicious. Like I can make food delicious and there's not gonna be salt in it. And then
I'm hearing a cooking class. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a cooking class.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I don't know, I mentioned to you, I was like, I'm definitely gonna have my own cooking show because that's another thing too. Like when I moved here, because growing up we always had our garden, we had farms, we had fruits, we had our own orange tree, pear tree, whatever. So literally we ate fresh things. Even if you went to the market, women harvested vegetables from their garden that morning, took it to the market.
Okay.
So the idea of organic was quite natural.
Okay.
Rich people ate processed food. You know what I mean? Because now you have to go
They
to the
were
store.
probably bigger too, right?
Yes, to buy. And then of course we did a lot of walking. We walked a lot. So I personally am not an exercise person, but I like walking, I like dancing because I never really needed to exercise. I'll walk like I don't know what it is in miles, but I could pretty much walk like a whole hour, and I was a very fast walker, like very fast walker. So
You're
an hour
probably
might be
close
like
to
I don't know,
10,000, that 10,000 steps a day.
I'm pretty sure that some days I got like 30,000 steps or 40,000 steps because we walked a lot. Like we walked to school, we walked to the market, we walked to everywhere. It was just like walking was a thing, So I guess I kind of got my exercise that way. And that's one of the things I struggled with when I moved here. In college, I walked from my home, but when I started working, I couldn't walk. So now I have to figure things out to do. But when I moved here, I brought like I had two boxes. One was a 70-pound box, and the other one was like 50 pounds. 70 pound was filled with food. Seriously, because
Good food, though.
Nigerian food.
Real
Yeah.
food.
And I was just having this conversation yesterday, and I was like, literally, I've never had to buy certain foods from the Nigerian store because somebody always came from home and and all that. And I don't eat a lot too, so things last longer for me. But I just stayed close to the things I ate. I found it, I love food variety, but I found it very difficult to adapt to the food in the United States because it was too sweet, too salty.
Yeah.
And I had a friend of mine that is an angel because we'll get in the car and drive for 45 minutes, and you actually even walk into some restaurants and I'll walk and be like, I can't eat here, and then she'll go home and cook for me.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. So what I started doing was I couldn't really eat the food at the restaurant. So I started making my version of the food.
Yeah.
Like I would probably say for 10 years, I never ate pizza outside of home. Like I'll make my own pizza, because I'll make my own sauce and everything. It tasted absolutely amazing. So everything I see, I make my own version of it. And that's kind of how I started, getting acclimated. And then I had this friend, she's from Holland, but she's Black, from one of the islands. And she was the one that actually got me to start eating American food a little bit more because she cooks it in a way that's healthy and all that kind of stuff. And I started trying different things out. But yeah, that's basically it. So I'm not your typical Nigerian, but it served me so far.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of things that we could unpack there. One is I used to work in Ethiopia, like literally in Addis Ababa. So I actually developed some relationships with people from Ethiopia, and then in turn got to know people from other parts of the continent. And I ended up working with a team of people that were supporting me in my business from Nigeria. And I've learned a lot more about the culture, but the one thing that I really leaned into was their conscious awareness of how to take care of themselves and how to be in community. And that was really eye-opening for me because in America, everybody's kind of spread out. Even in a household, it's like you don't even have but one generation in a household. And when people that are relatives want to come by, it's like, oh, you need to call. We need to put you on a calendar to know when you're coming. And that was something that was really eye-opening when I was talking to some of the people from, Africa. And it's just like, okay, how can we bring that back into our homes? And as women who are the head of the household, I think it's really important that we set the foundation and to bring family in and to know that how we nourish them will make all of the difference. I spent a lot of time with my grandmothers and great grandmother, but I was from a household with two parents, and my dad was a minister, and my mom, she was a homemaker, but she was coming along in that era, taking care of her family, where a lot of processed foods started to show up. And then it was like, oh, you could do this and save time, and you don't have to be in the kitchen cooking all day. So we got introduced to a lot of, it's not microwave foods at that time, but they were like dinners that they were frozen, flash frozen, and you would put them in the oven and bake them. And then this was a quicker version than being in the kitchen all day cooking. So I was introduced to that, but I also realized that there was a difference in the taste because I grew up being able to go out and get fresh cucumbers or get fresh tomatoes. And I love the flavor of fresh foods. And my mom would always tell me, she's like, you're so picky, like nobody can satisfy you. And now I'm the one that's just like, oh, she had something that was resonant in her. And I think it's because of my grandmother's. She was like, when the microwave came and all of those fast food came, she's like, I don't want any of that. Any of that. She made her coffee by boiling it on the, well, it's a percolator, but literally it was being boiled into coffee. So I remember that, and it stayed with me, and it's really served me today. So I think in your case, the upbringing that you had has followed you even here to the United States, where on average, I think we're overweight just in
Mhm.
general. And thus we have health problems with like the diabetes and high blood pressure because of too much salt and too much sugar and too much oils.
Mhm.
And I love the fact that you kept that as a basis in your life. So now when it comes to your family, do you make sure everything that they're eating is something that you prepared, or do they have the desire, like your friend from Poland, to go out and eat like the fast foods?
We don't eat out a lot.
Okay. So they love you
So,
cooking.
and part of the reason, like, if I cook my own food, I can eat it all day, every day, the same thing for a year. It's fine.
Okay.
But when I eat out, I get sick and tired of restaurant food or any food that is not cooked by me.
Okay.
And the foods that I enjoy are the foods where I can actually taste the ingredients. So that means that the food is clean. And I can say, ooh, I taste ginger. I taste
Okay.
this, I taste that. And I found that it's with Japanese cuisine that I found that a bit, a little bit obscure Japanese cuisine. So usually in my house, like if we get pizza, my kids are excited. If we get Chinese food, they're excited because it's a treat, we eat at home.
Okay.
So now that I'm a little bit busy and, I do buy stuff like, what do you call it? Mozzarella sticks sometimes so they can make something easy, cheese. But for the longest time, mac and cheese in my house was squash.
Okay.
I'll get the squash because it's yellow.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I'll put a little bit of cheese.
Okay.
And my kids ate it. And it was mac and cheese. Okay, so
I love it. I absolutely love it.
but now they don't make it with squash. Well, it's okay, So sometimes I let them cook and they'll make their own mac and cheese and things like that. But I try to have things around the house. We don't have a choice but to for the most part cook the right things.
Okay.
And to your point about having family, that is really huge because again, food is one aspect, but then having that environment of support is another aspect. Like every time I go to Nigeria, I eat everything and I actually lose weight. I lose nothing less than 6 pounds every time I go home. And I eat more. One is the quality of food. And the second thing is that you're happy because, I'm being taken care of. Okay.
Yes, yes,
I'm
yes.
seeing all this family and I'm just so happy and I'm not stressed and all those things. And as you were saying, that one thing I recall is like postpartum depression. Like I didn't even know what it was as much, but I realized that part of the reason is usually when you have a baby, your mom comes and stays with you, or your mother-in-law comes and stays with you. So
Love it.
you're never really alone with the baby, sometimes for 3 months up to 6 months. So the thing about saying I'm alone with the baby and I'm frustrated, and I feel like so even if people are depressed, sometimes you may not notice because you're you have the freedom or the opportunity to just probably go lie down if you don't feel like talking to anybody. If you're sad, they'll ask you what you want to eat. Your mom will make you food. So it won't be as obvious as it would have been if you were just there by yourself. So there's something to community that brings the joy and happiness so that when you eat the right things, so they're put together, it just kind of like, makes you even healthier overall.
Right. The aspect of eating a lot and losing weight, I want to preach that. Let's stay right there because one of the things that I work with my women in the menopause journey who are coaching, I say we have to do a detox. And they get in their mind like, oh my gosh, I got to take all these pills for like laxatives and probiotics and fiber and be in the bathroom all the time. And I'm just like, no, 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 no. We're going to eat real food. We're going to eat food that is going to nourish your body. It's going to make you feel fuller and you'll lose weight. And it's just like that concept blows their mind. There's no way. It's just like I eat a lot and da 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 da. I'm like, you're eating a lot, but you're not nourishing your body. So your body is asking you to feed it again because it's not satisfying the need. When they go through a detox, I start with just a simple 5-day detox. It's not hard, but it's basically eating like you would in Nigeria. You're eating real food, real things that are organic, that don't have all of the pesticides, that don't have all the preservatives. We're not getting anything out of a package. We're eating real food. And when you eat those types of food and you get that fiber in your body and start purging things out, all of a sudden, like after a couple of days, it's just like, you know what? I'm feeling like lighter. and I'm feeling like some of the aches and pains I had go away. It's just like, yes, because your body is purging toxins. We are overloaded and inundated with toxins here in the United States. Our air is toxic. We're in the DC metro area, so there's like 4 different airports around us. Our waters have so many chemicals in it to try to clean it, which I don't drink tap water. Then you think about like the products that you use on your skin or what you use on your hair, especially women of color who use relaxers and stuff. Like all of these things are contributing to our unhealthiness. You want to say it's all menopause. Like, no, we just need to clean up some things because your body's in the stage now where it's just like screaming for, oh, I need some care. So I imagine if they were able to try some recipes beyond, like we'll do the detox and then I'll give them, you know, a list of recipes that they can start incorporating into their diet. And sometimes I'll have women to say like, I don't really eat green stuff. I'm like, you don't eat green stuff? Your body needs that to by itself. Like, how is it? So there was one woman I had introduced. I've traveled around the globe, and I love, like you say, foods from Asia because of the ginger and the spices. I love foods from India because of the sriracha and the spicy stuff. I love Mexican foods for the jalapenos. I love Caribbean food for the jerk. Like I love all kind of foods, but let me tell you, sister don't cook. I do not cook, but I found a way that works for me. There's like these food services now, and you can order foods from all kinds of menus, and they're fresh foods. They're not frozen. They're made to order, and every couple of days they will drop them off to you. So I get to order foods from all over the world with different types of herbs. And the way I look at food, food is medicine. Eating these foods with parsley, I'm eating foods with curry. These are things that are supporting my body and helping me heal. So that's where I look at food to nourish me. I'm like you, when I go out to the restaurant, it's really a treat. I try to go to the nicer high-end restaurants because I know they use a better quality of food than going around the corner to the little hole in the wall where they got grease on top of everything. So it makes a difference. So as you look at your lifestyle, do you find that you're like healthier than the average person that you're around when you're working? Because I know you say you're in STEM, and we can talk a little bit about STEM for individuals that don't know. I didn't know a whole lot about it. You gave me some more insight into it, but you're in a high pressure career field. You have to be a woman that's probably challenged with an enormous workload, and the caliber of people that are around you rely on you to contribute at a really high level. So let's talk about that and the quality of the people in your circle as you're doing your work. Are you finding that they're having difficulty keeping up with you because of the way you eat and take care of yourself?
I'm going to say yes. And the reason I say that is not because I know that, but because I've been told that.
Okay, great.
You know, so I do things, and then I think it happened a lot last year because last year I had like I think I overdid things, and you know, health wise I needed to take a break. But the recurring thing that people were saying is that you do too much. I was like, what do you mean? I thought back to a couple of years ago, my cousin came to visit, so he was doing his fellowship at Harvard, and then he came around to the house, and then the wife came, and one day after the left, he called me, was like, what did you do to my wife? What did you say to my wife? Because he was thinking of staying back. She's like, she said she's never staying because she saw you and you were just busy from morning till night, running around. I was like, what? You know, because I'm like, I don't know. Again, I think I have more energy than a normal person. I do a lot more than a normal person, but I just didn't think about it because I just did. You know, if things were meant to be done, I just do it. But I think it also goes back to, again, the fact that I was probably a bit stronger, healthier from my nutrition and things like that. So I do all that, and I take care of myself. I try to sleep well, even though it was harder with the kids.
Yeah.
But I was able to sustain those high levels of being able to function at those high levels. And I think one of the things it did was, that at work for the most part, I get things filed on me. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Let's feel good. And I'll just keep going, like go. But I'm also the kind of person that I do understand that not everybody's like me. I never expect people to be like me. So when I'm working on a project, I usually, reach out to people. So like going back to what you said, like STEM is science, technology, engineering, and I work in the energy industry, always designed pipelines and the likes for oil and gas. So usually for every project, we have different disciplines. So I don't know everything. I don't expect everybody to know everything. But when I start a project, because for every work you have to work in a team because it's usually interdisciplinary. So somebody's electrical, somebody's mechanical, somebody is, civil and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I try to find out how they work and what they're good at and what their superpower is in a sense, if you want to know.
Yeah.
And then find out what their experience is and what they're leaning to. And then what I do is I try to classify, I try to promote that.
Okay.
Because when I do that, and what happens is like, okay, so this is how you've done things in the past. This is what has worked for you. Can you for us in this project? So the person actually feels like, okay, good. And they take ownership of it
Mm-hmm.
and they do the job better than if I was trying to tell them how to do it and what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is, for a lot of projects that I've worked on, it drastically reduced because time is a huge deal. Like when you're doing projects, it's really time, budget, whatever. So I always finish on time because they do it the best way they know how.
Yeah.
For the part that they're supposed to do, and I just kind of collect everything and I'm happy. So in terms of, I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. I don't put a lot of work pressure on myself because I let people work in their genius and I just kind of put things together. But we're much more efficient and we get the work done faster so I can move on to the next thing.
Okay.
So I don't get worn out
Okay.
by work.
Yeah.
Because you have to do everything yourself. When you micromanage, when you're like, okay, it's easier for me to do it by myself, you take on a lot and you can do them, but they're not in your zone of genius. So you do them anyway, but you won't be as energized as if you were doing the things that you really love to do.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of work, but
Yeah.
because I focus on the things that I love doing and let other people focus on the things that I'm really good at,
Mm-hmm.
work has never really stressed me out that much.
Okay.
People stress me out. Like if I'm working in a company where you have people that no matter what happens, they're just looking for someone to stress out. That's a totally different energy altogether. But the work itself has never really been a problem for me.
Okay, good deal. So let's talk a little bit about your career because you're a high performing woman. And when I'm having conversations with women, some of them are at the end of their careers and looking to figure out the next chapter of their life, or then some of them feel like, my life is complete. I've finished my career. The kids are gone, empty nesting, and maybe relationship is good or shifting, or there's a lot of change that happens on this menopause journey.
Mm-hmm.
So be able to encourage women to look at different opportunities that they can be the best version of themselves even as they move through the menopause journey. So you're in STEM. So tell us what STEM stands for.
Mm-hmm. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically, for me, I feel anything that either you're working in those fields or you're working in something that's related to those fields. For example, if you're a medical doctor, you have to take some of the sciences,
Mm-hmm.
to get to be a medical doctor. So all of that is in my opinion, STEM. I know sometimes the US is defined differently based on where you're getting funding from, but
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so it's a very technical, very advanced field. You don't have a lot of women in the field, I would imagine, especially women of color. So that.
Yeah. Oh. There are definitely not a lot of women and definitely not women of color. To be honest, like I think I only worked at one company where there was another woman of color, but usually I'm the only one. And in some companies I've pretty much been the only other woman, in my like discipline of the department and things like that. And it's it makes it challenging to some extent. But then again, one of the things I love about my job is the relationship that I build. So what I do everywhere I go, regardless of what's going on. I try to build the right relationships around me to support me in everything that I do.
Okay.
If I can't control everything, but the
Right.
ones I can't control, I do.
Yeah.
So it's a tough field to be in, but again, it's pretty much all I've known. So I just take on the things that come. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things I hear from women is like they're stressed a lot, and you did talk about some aspects of your job. So being that you're usually the only woman of color there, I would imagine a lot of the people you work with would be men of the Caucasian Asian. Does that add to the stress of your job? You said you have relationships. Is that relationships with people around your environment or your immediate work co-worker things?
Yes, it does add to the stress.
Okay.
And I'm going to keep going back to the fact that people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers. So people can be the largest source of stress for a lot of people in the industry, and especially when you're the only one or the only one of color in your position. Because now, there are fewer positions, there are fewer opportunities for visibility, and some people just kind of feel that you're not supposed to be here. An interesting thing, one trend I noticed in the energy industry is that most of my male colleagues that I work with, their wives are in STEM, for lack of a better word. Their wives usually have jobs that allow the men to be there. So sometimes when they come to the workplace and they see you, I kind of feel it might be an unconscious bias, but because they're used to a different kind of life, I feel that that also impacts how they see women at work. Because it's almost like you're not supposed to be here. I've had people voice it. Like I'm in there for the first time and they're telling me about how their wife had to quit my wife had to quit her job because I was so busy. And another one was like, yeah, and my wife had to work part-time because I'm like, why are we having this conversation?
Exactly.
So some of them are actually that overt, like they actually basically tell you that personally, I don't know why you're here, kind of thing. And of course, the longer you are in your career, and I've seen a lot of women that have been in this career for 30, 40 years, and to your point, they're getting to that point in their life where they're, premenopause, menopause, and all of that. And the longer you stay. So but one thing I've learned, and I didn't learn that by myself, which is the value in when you get to a point where what you're doing doesn't work, you look for help. It's finding joy in the little things. Because I'm really a happy person, but when you have all these external pressures coming at you and you don't know how to deal with it, because that's one thing I was like, I don't know, never really had this much external stressors coming at me. I did hire a coach, and one of the things that I learned was find joy in the little things. Find joy in the little things. And when I figured it out, it just clicked, and I was like, it's so easy to be so happy. Because I used to wait, it was like, when the kids are grown and out of the house, when I can travel around, when I can do this, then I'll be happy. But she was like, no, what's the best thing? My best thing is quiet mornings. Like, I just want to be by myself, listening to the birds and drinking coffee. And she's like, but you can do that now. I was like, no, because I have to wake up and get the kids ready for school. And she's like, yeah, but you can do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and things like that. So basically, a lot of us women, we postpone life. And we postpone life so much that even when we can live those lives like an empty nest or whatever, we no longer know how to not postpone life and how to enjoy life and how to find joy in little things. Because that also adds to, the glow and the happiness and joy, because not that things will happen, but when you find joy in little things, you have a lot of reasons to be happy during the day. And happiness is actually one of the things that make you healthier. So that's pretty much my antidote to that. To the stresses.
I'm gonna say mic drop. I have goosebumps with what you just shared because it is so important. Stress is going to be a part of life, but you can make a decision how you lean into happiness, how you lean into joy, and not let the stress overwhelm you. It sounds like you have practices in place to help you be balanced, to find the moments in life that make life make sense for you. I'm like you. I have my coffee right here, honey. And there is nothing like a slow morning for me. I worked supporting the government on contracts for many, many years, and I would be up at the crack of dawn, commuting into DC, working 9 hours, 12 hours sometimes, and coming back just totally wiped out. And it was just like this constant gerbil wheel that you were on. And I remember the joke one time was we're all running around with our hair on fire, and we would just have these blood pressure cuffs, and we would go around and check people's pressure because it's living day to day in this environment that's just so toxic and unhealthy. And if you don't have ways to stable that out, then it's going to result in some type of health problem. And one of the things that happened for me once we went through the pandemic and the contract period starts to shift and change, I realized, you know what? This is my exit. I need to be more intentional about the next phase of my life. I want to have a slow morning, and I get up in my mornings, and my first objective is to do my deep breathing, do a little yoga, have my coffee, some reading, and then I'm checking the stock market. You know, I mean, it's just a different life. And I want to encourage women that, you know what, you have to make a decision about how you navigate through life. So if you have a stressful job, what are the things that you are incorporating to navigate this so you can find your balance? You mentioned walking. That is one of the places that I go to as well. I try to walk every day. I used to work in DC, and I used to run, you know, on my breaks. And the scenery is so gorgeous in DC with all the monuments, and I just kind of get lost in running. But now that I'm, you know, an entrepreneur and I work from home full time, I don't run like I used to, and I don't really have the desire to run like I used to because I want to save my joints. I hear people, oh, I got knee replacement. I'm like, oh, baby, when I came in here, I'm leaving. I'm not having that. So we're going to start walking. But I found joy in walking. It was so like a meditative state if you walk long enough. And I know you say you walked about an hour or something. So these are things that I've incorporated. So besides your slow mornings, what other things do you bring into your days to bring down the stress? Because I can imagine what your environment like, because I worked with a lot of high-ranking military officers. So from there, it's just like, okay, I don't have to salute you, but I know the energy we coming in on. So I can just imagine what your days are like.
Well, the thing, okay, now that I work for myself, I have a little bit of control about, you know, what my days are like and what I take and what I don't take. But I just started doing that this year. So I'm gonna say, even before, when I made that decision, I decided that that's how I'm gonna, you know, that's how I'm going to, that's what's gonna drive how my work day goes. Like, I'm not gonna I was like, I've done this long enough. I can do it with my eyes closed.
Yes.
You know, there was a time that, you know, something happened on a project and everybody was running around, my boss, my boss's boss. I was as cool as a cucumber because I'm like, the project is gonna get done. And by the way, I said, let's do it this way. And you said we didn't need to do it this way. And now it's happening. But I'm like, and the thing is, you know, I've worked with the contractors for a while. They're pretty smart. I knew they were going to figure it out. And I had already scheduled a vacation. And I was like, I'm not canceling this. I'm going to do this with my family. So I reached out to my colleague. I was like, here's what I'm supposed to do. But I've also learned to trust people and trust that they're smart and trust that they know what they're doing and trust that they're going to get it done. So I went on vacation. I had an absolutely amazing time.
For you.
And I came back and everything was done. You know, so because I've already created those environments to make it easy for me to do that. If I was a micromanager, for example, and I did everything by myself, I would have probably had to cancel my vacation. Because now people will not feel empowered to do the things that they need to do, or, you know, they'll always call me all the time and ask me questions because that's how I train them.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So that's a thing there. And but even if you're not working for yourself or whatever, you can still create this environment. And I feel like after 40, for example, I cut it again. Okay, so you shouldn't. I mean, you shouldn't let others and external factors be the deciding factor whether or not you're going to be healthy, happy, or whole. And it's like a muscle that you have to build.
Yes.
Don't start one day and say, today I'm going to 100% go. No, start with little things.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, before COVID, I used to be up at 4:30 in the morning, blah, blah, go to work. After COVID, I was like, I'm not doing this again.
Yes.
I'm not doing this again because I know I have to go to work, come back, take my kids to their sports and all that, but I was like, I'm not doing this again.
Yes.
You know, I'll wake up at a certain time, I'll go to work, come back. When I'm done with my kids, I can put in an extra hour of work, but I'm going to make my life a bit more flexible to where it works for me.
Wonderful.
Because that was just one of those things that I did, and now I know better, and I'm not going to do it anymore. So be open to just changing, evolving.
Yes.
And one thing too that helped me a lot is community. Like, man, find your people. Like I found you, Beverly.
Yes,
you know,
like we found
like we found each other.
Yes.
Like I don't come to the circle all the time. If I come, I know I'm going to be nourished. So just find your community and be intentional about. There's something about when you say something, somehow the universe kind of responds to it.
Yes, I agree.
So decide the kind of people you want to be in your life.
Yeah.
Don't worry about where you're going to find them. I found the words for it that says we attract, we don't chase. I was like, oh, so that's what that is. So just think, I want to attract those people, and what do I need to do personally? Because you can only control yourself,
right,
to attract those people.
Yeah.
So if it's walking in whatever your values are, your principles, and doing the things that you want to do, leading to the things that you feel convinced to do, and I promise you're going to find those people. Like the connections I've made, for example, in the last year, yes, last year and a half or 2 years, because January of 2023, I was like, I'm going to be leading with intention. And that's all I said. And I keep telling my husband, there's no way I would have mapped out all these relationships. Like it doesn't make sense. But if you're intentional, then you're going to attract what you really want.
Yes.
So I'm just going to say that, just decide what you want and you. Because again, my community has helped me a lot, especially being a new business owner, and I have different groups, I have different communities for different things, and I go there and be like, ah, yeah. And then at the end of the hour, I'm like, okay, I'm happy now. Bye. See you next month. You know? So yeah.
Yes. There is one thing that I want to touch on, and there was so many thoughts that you shared that I really can go for another hour. Can you believe we've almost been on here an hour?
I can't believe it.
I know. I told you, I said, this is going to be just a chill conversation. And your level of wisdom to me is wise beyond your years. I thank you for what you shared and the person that you are in your space. But the one thing that I want to close out with was the importance of getting coaching and being in a community. And I'm like you, once I left my comfortable 6-figure job, it's like, okay, how do I get some help to build this back up? Because as an entrepreneur, it can be a very isolating journey because you're the end all and be all. You're the staff, you're the management, you're the CEO, you're the tech person. Like you wear a lot of different hats. So you need to have somebody to support you and help you with your blind spots and show you a way to work effectively and efficiently. So that's what I do as a health and wellness coach, working with women on the menopause journey, because a lot of times women don't even have any idea that they're going through the menopause journey. They don't understand some of the challenges that can come up as you're navigating, and ended up maybe in a doctor's office with a lot of prescriptions and not even understanding truly whether they're going to serve your symptoms or not. So having a coach is so important, and I'm here to support you in any way I can on that journey if you're looking for help. And the community, yes, I met you, it initially was brunch at
yeah.
St. Regis or something.
Yes, exactly.
We're rolling high up in here, honey.
Yeah.
It's like you set the intention. I set the intention. I want to be with women who are working at high levels. It's like iron sharpening iron. I also have several coaches, and I love learning from a coach. And I also like to be in the community of women who think like I think and want to be the best version of themselves. So I am so grateful that we met, and I hope this isn't the last time. I truly believe we need to do something with your cooking.
Oh man, we do.
Because, I mean, I had a household full and boys that were in sports and stuff. So my boys are no longer boys, they're grown men with their own lives and they're independent. But I still feel like since I have more time now, I can maybe incorporate a couple of things that I can do simply and easily, bringing in some other aspects of nourishing my body. I'm a salad girl. If I have to cook something, we're in there pulling everything out, throwing a salad, and I'm in and out in like 15 minutes. But honey, I can make a mean salad. I can get a salad. You don't need anything else to eat.
Oh wow.
Because it's full of fiber. It's full of, I put a lot of like seeds or nuts in it. I don't try to eat as much protein, which I need to lean more into, but I've been trying to be more plant-based. But anyway, that's another conversation. I'm just like, oh, I just want to ask you some more things. I'm going to close it out here and say, what a pleasure and an honor it has been to be in this space with you. You're such an amazing woman, so inspiring at the level in which you show up and the knowledge that you have about what we as women need to do to care for ourselves and our families. I'm just thankful, appreciate you. And any final words you want to share with the ladies, it's all yours, my dear.
All right, I'm just gonna say, just be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself for things you can do. Have a plan, but if you have 10 things on your list and you do half, celebrate that. Oh, I did half, yay! And then tomorrow you start the list again. But as women, we usually expect too much from ourselves, expect very little from other people. We forgive others 10 times before we forgive ourselves. So just be kind to yourself. That's the one thing I'm gonna say. And that will make your life so much better.
Oh, what a beautiful takeaway, kindness. And you don't hear that enough. So that is your word for the day, ladies, the kindness. I want to again thank you for being here, my guest today. And for those that have joined us here on the Sexy Side of Menopause, again, my name is Beverly with Beverly Hills Health and Wellness Coaching, where I am the founder and CEO of the company. I'm a certified health coach where I help women to break through the stigma of menopause and lean into a fabulous, confident, and sexy new vision of themselves through a holistic journey that I refer to as stepping into a powerful next level life. So ladies, we'll see you next time on the Sexy Side of Menopause. Take care. Thank you.